Is this story serving me in the moment? Is the second question. And each one of these is designed to help us to create space between that stimulus of, oh my God, boss, child, wife, stories in the evening, and saying, what's the story I'm telling? Is it serving me in this moment? And I create space just by asking those questions. And so what's the value of that space? The value is now I get to go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this doesn't have to be me. Maybe this doesn't have to be the way that I behave. And that's why I love, Oh, the Stories We Tell as a title. It's like, oh, the stories I tell. I can't tell you how many people over the years that I've told about this will call or text or send an email, oh, the stories I'm telling. Like that alone is pretty damn good, right?
Yes. Yeah. No. And I think, one of the other things that the space gives you is the opportunity for you to have more clarity on the situation. Because I would say somewhere, depending on the situation, somewhere between 20 to 80% of my annoyance might not be accurately based on what somebody else said.
Yep.
So I misread a coworker's email the other day, complaining to the boss, and the boss forwarded me the email because the boss read it correctly, forwarded me the email, and the coworker was complaining about how something was set up and what shite it was. Well, I'm the one that set it up, and everybody knew that. So when I read this, I was like, oh, everybody knows I'm the one that set that up. And yes, there's problems with it, but here's what the issue is. When I took the time to reread the email, she was referring to the issues that arose and not my setup of it. But it was a subtle distinction in her writing, and all you had to do was just really dispassionately and comfortably read the email to then come to the understanding that she wasn't trying to throw me under the bus. But boy, there for a minute, I felt thrown under the bus.
Absolutely. And it's a common story. That's a common story. Anything that has to do with how we're perceived by others can send us into really crappy stories that don't serve us well. And I don't know anybody that's not impacted by that here and there, and myself included. Or like, well, wait a minute, I'm going through a situation right now where a client's partner is letting me go from their organization, and it's really easy to wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, this is so sucky, and I don't, and to figure out, and I write things to try and recognize where I am, recognize where that person is, and how we got here, and understand that it's just different things, and that's okay. But those are the types of things that when we are concerned about how we're being perceived, it's one of the biggest places that sends us to what I call little me land and stories that don't serve us. Boy, oh boy. And I can tell you in the last year, there's been 2 or 3 emails where I had to reread them 2 or 3 times before I realized that it wasn't somebody saying what you did was wrong. One of the things that is really good to understand is that there are some really basic stories that everybody on the planet tells. There's an arm of psychology that they identify what they call cognitive distortions. And these are common stories that everybody tells that don't serve them. So in my model, a story that doesn't serve you, we say it's above the line. It doesn't serve me. If it does serve me, it's below the line. So cognitive distortions are this list of stories that we tell ourselves that don't serve us. My worth, how I'm perceived. There's all kinds of them that are very common and really easy to kind of undo over time if we understand that. And that's why asking the question, is this serving me in this moment? Not then, not in the future. In this moment, is it serving me? Gives me that little more space to be able to look at it and then hopefully answer question number 3, which is simply, is there a more authentic story I can tell? And this goes back to what I was saying about Byron Katie, who is able to say, if you didn't have that, it's the equivalent of saying, if you didn't have this story, where would you be? If I wasn't upset with my boss, if I didn't think my kids were blown, and if my spouse would just behave, where would you be? And people know the answer to that at some level. And so everything that these 3 questions are about, and everything in the model that we'll go over in the next few episodes, is based on really, what's the story I'm telling, and does it serve me? If it doesn't serve me, we say it's above the line. And if it does serve me, we say it's below the line. And that's where authenticity lives. And we all know it. We all know when we're authentic. We just know it. There's just
a comfort, a confidence,
good.
A peace. I know that's an overused word in today's parlance, but you're just, there's a lack of threat, maybe is even the better word.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but today's world, we are assailed with threats.
Yes, we are.
Probably, mostly perceived, since we're not living in an environment where the wild animals will eat us, and 6 of our 12 children will die from
and unfortunately, we're still stuck with the wiring to deal with that, and that's a big place. And also a really important thing to understand about stories that don't serve us is that it's based on, in large part, wiring that was designed to protect us prehistorically, and now it doesn't see the lions and the tigers and the bears, but boy oh my, does it make stories that we call cognitive distortions just a real thing. And when you realize that that's what this is about, and that this is about reframing those stories that don't serve us, boy, do you start to see big changes in your life. I mean, and it's not about bigger, stronger, better. It's the authenticity piece, like you were just talking about, those characteristics. Do I feel grounded? Do I feel peaceful? Am I centered? Those types of things are not available to us above the line with stories that don't serve us. So those are the 3 questions that I swear to God can change your life in a way that so many people struggle with without those questions, without this kind of frame of reference, these lenses, as I like to call them. We're going to have a life where we struggle, where we can't make sense out of what's going on. We feel powerless. We feel victimized, all of those things. And the thing that kills me is that until you recognize that you're the one telling the stories, regardless of anybody else's behavior, regardless of how good or bad things have been in our past, we're the ones that carry the stories. And when we carry those stories, we also carry our unhappiness. We carry angst. We carry these feelings of worthlessness and powerlessness and victimization. And just by simply, and this is simply is probably the wrong word, but by simply taking the time to ask those 3 questions and really figure out a more authentic story, that's where, I'm not going to say happiness is, because I don't think we really know what happiness is, but it is where we are content because we've got these issues into a place where we can look at them and they can serve us instead of being what holds us hostage. And that's where meaning happens. That's where we appreciate that, as much as we never ever want to go through that and would never put anybody through that situation, it has served me because of this, this, and this, and these parts I've put away, and I can deal with them later, or whatever the case may be, or I can deal with them now and have it, as a result, a place where I get to feel more meaning, contentment in my life. And those are the things that, when it all comes down to it, really are what happiness is about, is having those underlying characteristics in my life more and more of the time.
You know, in one other little aspect, it's a different permutation of what you're talking about, but it's also the ability to, with alacrity, handle the challenges in your life. Mm-hmm. And there have definitely been times and places where I've had a rolling, we'll use the ocean, wave of challenges that have hit my shore. And there have been times when, instead of just being paralyzed by fear, I've been excited and interested and ready. Certainly this is something that you see on an athletic field. You know, I played soccer back before women competitively played soccer, but I remember, you know, wanting that, you know, goalie to hit the highest ball into the sky, blocked out by the sun, she could, because I was practicing a catch with my foot, where I would grab that sucker out of the sky, bring it down without a bounce, and be off with it. And you know, that usually, you know, that big high boot is the one that's going to hurt the most, you know, and it's the one that's the most out of control. And I was like, it's mine. You know, I was the person with the mitt underneath the pop fly, or the, you know, or the business person who recognized that there was challenges afoot, and you were out there on the vanguard with your Wonder Woman bracelets on because you were ready for it. And I think that, you know, finding that balance is, finding that opportunity is an amazing place to be. And I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that again every day.
And you've got ways to find that now. We've got practices and things that you can do that are going to help you to do that in a way that serves you better, right? And I think that's what's so important. Is so important. One of the things that you said that we can twist it just a little bit, which is to say, one of the ways that you defeated a high ball coming down and hitting you and hurting you is that you were going to learn how to catch that ball and take it down. And this is another thing that's so important to understand about stories that don't serve us, is that we are in problem mode and not in solution mode. So when I start looking at stories that can serve me, and learning is a great one, I'm going to learn this thing. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a soccer ball, or I'm going to learn how to shut up when my wife is mad and let her just vent and not and listen and not respond in kind. Those are the types of things that change our world so dramatically. And it's all up here. And looking at it as stories, figuring out if it serves me in the moment, and then moving on to something that's more authentic. Learning is a great way. Framing things up as a learning opportunity is a great way to move in that direction.
So one of the things you talk about, and this is going to come a little bit out of left field, but you talk about above the line and below the line. Have you named that line? What is that line? Because I've seen your diagrams, so I know, and we've had several conversations about your pyramid too. Ultimately, the goal of, without it ever being the goal of enlightenment, but you know, that would be the, you know, the a pinnacle. Mm-hmm. Bottom of your pyramid of whether that's momentary or a lifetime of enlightenment. But you have that line, that demarcation. What do you call that line?
We're going to have to come up with a new name, but I just call it the line. And I haven't come up with a better way to do it. I'm certainly open to it, but you know, how would you name that? It's the line, I don't know, the service line. Does it serve me or does it not? The serve us line, the serve me line.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's so nice about that is that when I know that I'm above the line, I can look at it and go, oh, I am above the line. I'm not serving myself with the thinking that I'm having right now. And how can I get below that line? And when you talk about a pyramid, it's an upside down pyramid. The
Mm-hmm.
pyramid. So what people typically think of, it's very interesting, is that I need to get to the top of the pyramid where enlightenment is. And I have to do all these things to climb the pyramid. And I for a long time, I've had it as an upside down or like a V. And I tried to turn it right side up, so to speak. And I realized that what it does is it just immediately creates stories that don't serve us of what I just said. Oh, I have to do all these things to become enlightened and to get to the top of the pyramid. And really what we're saying is we're undoing all those things that have kept you from the places that you want to be in terms of happiness and that sort of thing. And that they lie at the bottom of the V where I have a tendency to call it our inner light, or, this little light of mine, that sort of thing, and we see it in kids all the time, right? But they go above and below that serve me line, but they do it a lot faster and without any concern about being up there. Now I'm back down. And so we're really in some ways trying to peel back the things that keep us above the line and from stories that just keep us unhappy.
The inverted pyramid, which is what I should have called it. The inverted pyramid works for me because my first real job, and I've had many, but my first real calling was as a journalist. And a journalist always writes a story in the inverted pyramid style.
Really?
Yes.
What's that?
The most information is in your first sentence, your first paragraph, and then you bring your story down to summarize the front. But they call it the inverted pyramid. So so it works for me from a storytelling and a journalistic standpoint.
Well, it'll work for you in what we're doing too, because the other thing that's so important about it is that what we realize is that when we change the story of all these things I have to accomplish, I've been meditating for 20 years and I don't understand why I've been doing all these things. A big story that doesn't serve us is all the things that I need to do to get to where I want to be, versus the story of I am where I am and how can I make this moment better? How can I serve myself in this moment? Is so much more important. And when you start practicing those things and letting go of this idea of I've got to climb the ladder, I've got to go up the pyramid.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting and it doesn't work. And that's the problem. I mean, so much of our problems in society and our problems in our mind is the thinking above the line of how we need to accomplish things. And boy, oh boy, it does not serve us. We end up with a lifetime of angst and going, what have I done wrong? I can tell you.
Yeah, well, and we binge and purge. We are on the diet, we're on the exercise, we're on the meditation, we're on the volunteering, we're on the good parent bus, we're on the fast track at work, we're on the financial success bus, and there's just so many. You and I've talked about this with me. There's just so many things that you can't fit them into the day, or your day becomes so scripted that you just lose any passion for it. If I get up earlier and then I do my walk and then I do my spiritual meditation and then I do my journaling and that's good. And I know a lot of people do that. I really do. But sometimes it just wears me down.
And it's not a question of whether those things are right or wrong. Mm-hmm. It's how I frame it up.
Right. Exactly.
And
yes.
So, being able to do some of those things and, like one of the worst stories in terms of accomplishing things is that I've got to give it 100% all of the time, and I shouldn't vary from that. Oh my God, I'm climbing that pyramid, and it just doesn't work. I mean, and then on top of it, when we fail at doing something 100%, then we beat the crap out of ourselves for not doing it. And then we use that experience in the 20 before it as now a new motivation not to do something that serves me. Oh, that's not going to work. That is a story that doesn't serve me.
Yeah, and it's not even a full-fledged failure a lot of times. Sometimes it's just, we didn't make our goal. Maybe we got 75% of our goal, but we didn't get 100% of our goal, and now all of a sudden we feel like society is asking us to check off these boxes.
And take this and look at it from a management standpoint. Above the line stories that don't serve me is we blew it. We were at 75%. Oh my God, did we blow it? Versus below the line management style, we were 3/4 of the way there. We were 75% of the way there. What do you think? What can we learn to figure out how to get that next 25%? Where is the value in this failure that we can take it and use it as the basis? Think about the difference of that from a management standpoint. If my focus is you blew it, boy, I don't want to be in that environment. And if instead it's, dude, didn't make it, sure wish we had, and we need to figure out what we can do to keep moving in that direction. What can we learn from this? Right back to the soccer analogy. What can we do with this ball coming down from so high, and take that and figure out how to catch it and run with it? All the difference in the world in terms of a place to work, how I feel as an employee, it's huge. And, this is the other place that I just so want this model to be incorporated is into management. Are the things that I'm saying, are they serving my employees, my bosses, my coworkers, or are they being problematic and making the situation worse? And God knows how many places we've worked over the years where that was the way things got done. And everybody's miserable. And then nobody's motivated to want to go and get that extra 25%. Because I know the boss is going to be pissed about something else.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I prefer, over the years, have loved working in family-run businesses. And I have some of the most dysfunctional stories you could ever imagine. But I preferred that dysfunction over corporate. I mean, I've done corporate a couple of times. I can succeed. I can live there, but I just don't enjoy it as much over the family dysfunction.
Well, as our audience will see, there's a fabulous story of being in a really dysfunctional work environment and thriving in it and helping everybody else to thrive. And man, oh man, when we live below the line and tell stories that serve us about the people we work with and how we're doing and where we're going, it's not all positive, but boy, oh boy, does it serve us in a huge way and enlist everybody, for the most part, enlists most people, and the people that aren't enlisted probably should go. It changes how we perceive our work and the value of it. And we all want meaning in what we're doing. And we walk, as managers, we walk right by it, left and right. Nah, whatever. Problem. No place to be, and certainly doesn't serve us. And then it makes it very easy for us as employees to tell stories that don't serve us or anyone else. And now we're driving ourselves crazy. We're above that line, and what we need to do is come below that line where the meaning is.
And the enjoyment and the enthusiasm for the battle.
And doing it as a team, working together, There's so many things that as human beings we love in the right circumstance. We love working as a team when we're all in it for the same reason.
Boy, is that the truth? Oh my gosh. I still have fast friendships from teams that just had crazy successes.
Yeah.
It's a high that I think all of the team members have continued to look for, because when it works beautifully and the tapestry that's woven is so immense, you never forget how strong and successful that collaboration is, and I think you're always looking for it again. And it's interesting because and that's part of what this, in some ways restarted this discussion for me is that I've definitely had those times, and then something's happened, a team changed or financial dynamics changed, and then all of a sudden you don't have that confidence and strength, and you're not just walking in and solving all the problems, and then you kind of get back on it again and you have another success, and then guess what happens? You're now you're older and you're dealing with ageism or whatever whatever it is that is now come your way, that you're not putting your Wonder Woman bracelets on and out there slaying your dragon and waking up in the morning with your sword, where you're like, I'll slay the dragon.
Well, and that's what we all want to do, isn't it? I mean, at some level, we want to slay the crappiness dragon and find the meaning in all of it. And that's why I think this, just another reason I think this is so important. If I'm a manager or if I'm an individual contributor, an employee who has the benefit of this model, over time, my behavior will change to bring people that way.